The morning the CEO walked past him without a glance. The rain was falling sideways, as if the city itself had decided to test who still believed in mercy. Daniel Carter stood near the revolving doors of the glass tower with a cardboard box pressed to his chest, his son's worn backpack hanging from one shoulder, the smell of cheap coffee clinging to his coat. He looked like a man invisible by design, the kind of person the world learned to step around. Inside that tower, elevators whispered upward toward polished offices and power. Outside, Daniel waited for a bus that was already late, his phone vibrating with reminders he could not afford to ignore. Above him, the company logo gleamed like a promise that had never been meant for someone like him. He did not know that this ordinary morning would become the hinge on which his life turned, nor that the woman who had just ignored him would soon question everything she believed about success, judgment, and second chances. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of people who keep going even when the world looks away, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Daniel had not always been invisible. Years earlier, he had been a junior systems analyst with steady pay and a laugh that came easily. He and his wife Emily had planned a simple life in Ohio, close to family, full of Sunday dinners and soccer practices. Then illness arrived without invitation, draining their savings and stealing time. When Emily passed, grief did not politely step aside for responsibility. It pressed its weight into every morning, every decision. Daniel became both parents overnight, learning to braid hair with shaking hands, to cook dinners that would stretch, to read bedtime stories through a throat tight with loss. He worked until layoffs arrived. Like a cold wind, and the job he thought would carry them forward dissolved in an email that offered sympathy but no solution. He moved to Chicago chasing opportunity, trading familiarity for hope, carrying his son Noah and a resume worn thin by rejections. Across town, Claire Whitman commanded a corner office with a view of the river and a calendar packed with meetings. She had built Whitman Technologies from a risky idea into a respected firm, earning every inch of authority through relentless focus. The world praised her discipline, her decisiveness, her refusal to indulge excuses. She believed outcomes revealed character and that effort always found a way to pay off. The city saw her as a symbol of possibility, and she wore that role with a controlled smile. What she did not see, at least not yet, were the costs of certainty, the blind spots created by speed, and the stories that slipped past when you never slowed down. Daniel's days were measured in practical victories. He found a school that would accept Noah mid-year, negotiated a payment plan with a landlord who believed in handshakes, and took night shifts wherever someone would trust him. Mornings were for interviews, afternoons for homework at the library, evenings for deliveries. He taught Noah how to be brave without pretending things were easy. He learned how to stand in rooms where decision-makers skimmed his resume and paused on the gaps, how to nod politely when they said they were looking for a better fit. He learned how to hope quietly. One afternoon, after another interview that ended in a polite dismissal, Daniel sat on a bench across from the Whitman Tower, watching people hurry past. Noah traced shapes on the concrete with a stick, humming to himself. Daniel's phone buzzed with a message about a short-term contract opportunity, nothing certain, nothing secure. He looked up as Claire emerged from the building, surrounded by advisors, her posture efficient, her gaze forward. She did not notice the father and son on the bench. To her, they were part of the city's background noise, proof that momentum demanded attention and stillness did not. Weeks passed. Daniel found a temporary role repairing servers for a small nonprofit, grateful for the chance to prove himself. He worked late, fixing problems that others had abandoned, documenting solutions carefully. His supervisor praised his reliability and quietly shared his resume with contacts. Progress was slow, but it was progress. On Saturdays, Daniel volunteered at a community center teaching basic computer skills to seniors. It gave him a sense of usefulness that money could not replace. Noah thrived in small ways, making a friend, improving his reading, learning that love could be steady even when circumstances were not. Claire's certainty cracked on a night she stayed late to review an acquisition. Numbers blurred, and the city lights reflected back at her like questions. She thought about her own father, a machinist who had believed in showing up, who had taught her that pride came from work done well. She wondered when efficiency had replaced empathy in her decision-making, and whether that trait had been necessary. She pushed the thought aside. There was a board meeting in the morning. The turning point arrived without fanfare. Claire attended a charity fundraiser hosted at the same community center where Daniel volunteered. She arrived prepared to write a check and leave, scanning faces, calculating impact. As she crossed the room, she noticed Daniel at a computer station, patiently guiding a group of seniors through an email lesson, his voice calm, his attention unwavering. Beside him stood a woman, a nurse named Hannah, who volunteered on weekends, offering encouragement and snacks. They were not performing kindness, they were practicing it naturally, without expectation. Claire slowed. Something about the scene unsettled her assumptions. This man, attentive and capable, did not fit the story she told herself about effort and reward. She watched as Daniel packed up equipment, thanked volunteers, and collected Noah, who ran to him with a drawing held high. The joy on Daniel's face was unguarded, the kind that did not ask permission. Hannah laughed, resting a hand briefly on Daniel's shoulder as they talked about next week's schedule. Claire felt an unexpected tightness in her chest, a realization that she had overlooked people like Daniel not because they lacked merit, but because her lens had been too narrow. Over the following days, Claire asked questions. She learned about the nonprofit systems, about the volunteer who had redesigned their network at no cost, about the single father who never missed a session. She reviewed Daniel's resume again, this time reading between the lines. The gaps told a story of caregiving, resilience, and adaptability. The skills were there, sharpened by necessity. Claire recognized something she valued deeply but had failed to measure. Daniel received an email inviting him to interview at Whitman Technologies. He read it twice, unsure if it was a mistake. He prepared late into the night, Noah asleep beside him, the city humming outside their window. He did not expect miracles. He expected honesty. The interview unfolded differently than any before. Claire listened. She asked about challenges, not to expose weaknesses but to understand solutions. Daniel spoke of constraints and creativity, of learning to prioritize, of leading with patience. He did not perform confidence, he offered clarity. When he left the building, rain had returned, but it felt lighter. Change did not arrive as a grand gesture. It came as an offer that recognized experience and potential, a role that valued reliability as much as brilliance. Daniel accepted with gratitude and caution, mindful of the balance he needed to maintain. Claire adjusted policies quietly, expanding pathways for candidates with unconventional journeys, investing in mentorship, programs that recognized life as a teacher. The company's culture shifted not overnight, but measurably. Daniel's first months were demanding. He arrived early, left on time when he could, learned systems, earned trust. Colleagues noticed his steadiness, his willingness to help without stepping on toes. Noah adapted to a new routine, proud of his father, secure in the knowledge that evenings would still include homework and stories. Hannah remained a friend, their connection grounded in shared service and respect, not spectacle. Claire observed from a distance, careful not to make Daniel a symbol. She learned that leadership could be both decisive and compassionate, that seeing did not slow progress but refined it. In meetings, she found herself asking who was missing, whose voice had not been heard. She discovered that success expanded when judgment contracted. As seasons turned, Daniel stood once more outside the Whitman Tower, this time waiting for Noah after a school visit day. The glass reflected a city that felt less hostile. He thought of Emily, of promises kept and paths altered. He knew the journey had not ended. Security required maintenance, humility, and continued effort. But he also knew that being seen had changed the terrain. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps stories of resilience and compassion reach farther than we can alone. Near the end of the year, the community center hosted a celebration. Claire attended again, this time without an agenda. She watched Daniel receive quiet thanks, saw Noah help a senior log in with patient pride. She felt gratitude not for what she had given, but for what she had learned. The city hummed on, indifferent and beautiful, full of overlooked moments waiting for attention. Before the final moments, we have a special request. Please comment below and share what this story reminded you of, or who it made you think about. Your words matter, and they build a community of empathy around this channel. In the end, the lesson was not that a CEO saved a single dad, or that success descended from a corner office. It was that seeing is an act of courage, and kindness multiplies when practiced without applause. Daniel continued to show up, not because he had been validated, but because he had always believed in the work itself. Claire continued to lead, not because her title demanded it, but because her perspective had widened. And somewhere between a rain-soaked morning and a crowded community room, a simple truth settled in. When we look again and look closer, everything can change.